Hip hip, tally-ho, Joolz Guides here, in which we wander around London telling you amazing facts. And don't forget to hit the subscribe button if you like these videos. Today, we're starting here around the Leamouth Peninsula and we're going to wander over towards Poplar, but we've just come out of Canning Town Station and we're going to walk over this bridge and over to this, which is called the London City Island. Canning Town, let's wander up here. Canning Town is named after Charles Canning, the Viceroy of India. During the 1850s, when they had the Great Rebellion, it was known as, sometimes known as the Indian Mutiny, they were not too pleased about the British East India Company basically acting like a sovereign power on behalf of Britain over there. Anyway, he suppressed that, and so now they've named Canning Town, a whole load of other places after him. No, let's go over there. Amazing to think that this was back in the 1900s. This was all kind of old housing, factories, stuff like that. And now look, I mean, you could be somewhere in Asia. I mean, these newly developed, brand new buildings.
Like an architectural model, isn't it?
And across the other side of this creek here, this is called the Bow Creek Ecological Park. The whole area is covered in all these flyovers and stuff, which is a bit hectic, and trains or whatever, but it's actually really peaceful. There's loads of blackberries to pick as well. Good time of year for that. Definitely helps being tall. And it was around the 90s they discovered these new types of plants which might have come in on ships because we're near the docks here. So they preserved it as a kind of ecological park. One such plant that they discovered had the pleasing name hairy buttercup. Have you ever picked a hairy buttercup? I don't know what a hairy buttock was doing on the floor.
It's like the location of some sort of gangster film, isn't it?
Look at that, Thames Ironworks. Now I think they also had a part on the other side of the river, but this is where from around 1837 until 1912, when the Titanic was built, they built ships, cranes, bridges. They employed thousands of people here. Obviously they got a bit of competition from the shipbuilders up north, and Belfast, for example. I suppose that must be why they kind of slowly went into decline around 1912. But it was here in 1895 that they founded the football club, the Thames Ironworks FC. And that then later got refounded as the Hammers, West Ham United. So actually West Ham Football Club started as the Thames Ironworks Football Club. And there was a lot of inbreeding around here. There was one newspaper report stated that out of the 160 children on the school register, 100 of them were called Lamin. Yeah, I mean, after a while here, the whole area went into a decline and all these families moved out. They moved to Poplar. I think this is it says dry dock. So the gates would fill with water and sort of open or close according to how full of water these bowed gates are. And a boat could come in here, you could dry out the dock and you could perform maintenance. Yeah. Arrived at Trinity Buoy Wharf here. This is Container City. I think it only got built in about 8 days. It's quite popular now to have these kind of containers, making offices and stuff. It's named after Trinity House, which is like back in King Henry VIII's time, he granted a charter to Trinity House to help with navigational aids and stuff like that. And in 1803, Trinity House set up an establishment here to make buoys. Like buoys as in the ones that float on the water. And they've got the only existing lighthouse in London is here. That one in King's Cross doesn't count, by the way, one outside King's Cross Station. That's not really a lighthouse. But they've got the only lighthouse here. And look, they got this ship over here, the LV-95. This used to be a lighthouse ship. It used to warn ships approaching South Goodwin Sands. These days it's a recording studio. So people like Ed Sheeran and Lana Del Rey have recorded in there. In fact, all the places around here, you've got an art studio over here. You've got lots of offices, all connected with creativity, very creative space around here.
I work in PR, I do PR for the site. We are an art centre full of art studios, exhibition spaces, artists in residence, etc.
Can you take me around and show me. Oh, excellent. Where are you taking me, Patricia?
My favourite tenant, James Typewriter Man.
Hello there.
Hello, James.
Nice to meet you.
The typewriter man. I can see why they call you the typewriter man.
Yes. The reason I'm here is because of this picture. Where is it? This one here, which is the view from the lighthouse. Because I wanted to do this view with my typewriter, and Patricia said, oh, well, we have artists in residence and poets. I rent this studio and I've been here for about 3 years. I just somehow came across typewriter art as this long forgotten form of art making that comes from the Victorian ages.
You're not the pioneer then?
No, but so I was inspired by this artist from America who's born with cerebral palsy. As a child, his parents gave him a typewriter because they wanted him to learn to read and write, and they thought, well, perhaps if we give him something that has keys, it might be easier to learn to write than holding a pencil. But what he ended up doing was making drawings.
Does it make a difference which typewriter you use?
Yeah, definitely. So you'll see
artwork?
Different ages. This is the oldest one. It's from 1897. So, you know, if I want to do a really big drawing, I'll use a really big typewriter.
What's your Instagram?
My Instagram is James Cook Artwork. So if you can imagine, every drawing is made from letters, numbers, punctuation marks. If I'm doing brickwork, I'll use horizontal lines. It might be like an underscore.
Right.
So I don't want to ruin the drawing now.
No, don't ruin the drawing for me.
On the spot.
Use a different bit of paper. Use a different paper.
No, sorry, I can do. I'll do a little bit of shading. Okay. But yeah. So for example, like the @ symbol is very good for shading. And then.
You don't use those golf ball typewriters ever, do you?
I don't. I have got one of them, and it actually came out of Buckingham Palace.
Oh, wow.
So it was donated by the Queen's private secretary. It's all in colour, so this piece here.
Oh, they do have green.
Very, very rare typewriter ribbons that you can get in different colours.
Oh, okay. Nice. You must get a fair few of these, though.
Yeah. So I've got plenty of them here.
All right, so they're easy to come by, are they, those ribbons?
eBay.
Brilliant. Cheers. Hello, Eric.
Yes.
Eric, you started the place up, did you?
Yeah, I did, in 1997.
You also did Camden Lock, did you?
I did Camden Lock, I did Merton Abbey Mills, I did the Elephant and Castle. This is what it looked like, completely empty, not a soul. And now it's fairly busy and jolly.
Flood tide, tidal sonification. There's a lot of weird musical implements around here. Like, look. Over here, you've got this kind of bell thing.
A tide bell, which rings when the tide is up against the clapper. It's unique to this place. This was obviously made to fit this wall, but there are 7 others around the coastline. Marcus Verget designed and made them.
And over there, this is the actual lighthouse that Michael Faraday used to work in. He was the scientific advisor to Trinity House, and he did a lot of experiments here. They used to use it for training lighthouse keepers and things like that. So inside here, I don't know if we can go up there, they've got this sound installation called Long Player, and it's a piece of music which is lasting 1,000 years.
Special access.
You can't keep a horse in a lighthouse. Nay, nay, nay. Do you know that song, Eric?
I'm glad to tell you that this is the first time I've ever heard it.
What?
They are singing bowls, and the lovely Jem Finer invented this idea of a piece of music which does not repeat itself. It's open every weekend. It's being done by this machine, which is reading this. It's 25 years, 217 days, 1 hour, 53 minutes.
Because people won't be alive for 1,000 years, they've had to create this whole corporation to look after it. Of course, when these people go or when they die and move on, then they're going to need someone else to update the computers and keep on playing these songs. But it's going to keep going till the year 2999. Wait a minute, there's a horse up here. What's it doing?
Neighing.
So Faraday's been up here?
Yes, it's built for him. Experimented with means of light, of course with electricity. That originally, lighthouses would have been a fire or a candle, which makes soot and makes the windows dirty. So he was working towards a clean light source. And over there, there's a hill called Shooter's Hill, and there was a receiving station there so that they could test various forms of light and sound, and the whole thing was then used as a sort of open-air experiment.
This is one of the smallest museums I've ever seen in my life. You can head inside and see his dead cat. How lovely. Delightful. This is the last remaining Victorian steamship in London. It's now, these days, you can hire it out as a venue.
Book online, as they say.
So what's it called? The Robin?
SS Robin, built in 1890. It has its original engine. It's a steam engine, it's a triple expansion engine. There were, at one point, hundreds, if not thousands of them in the river.
The water is wide, I cannot cross over, neither have I the wings to fly.
This ship was built where those trees are. So it's unique in several ways, one of which is it's still here. Second is it has the original motive power, the steam engine. And the third is you could almost throw a cricket ball to where it was built.
Around the early 1800s, the East India Dock Company built these docks over here, and this is the only part of the East India docks that still remain. And this basin here is just that little bit there, look, Simon. You could get in there. You'd come off the river there and you'd come in here, and then you could go into, there's an export dock and an import dock, which we'll come to later, although they've now been covered over and built upon. But this bit here has remained. They've turned it into a wildlife sanctuary. But oh, look at this. This was for the millennium. And I don't think it's been used since. They should. It's rather good, isn't it? So I can just imagine a couple of 100 years ago, this whole area would have been replete with tall ships and all sorts, and you'd come through those big gates over there and into here, and then but through some gates over there and into the import or export docks. That always makes me think of The World Is Not Enough. You know, the James Bond film where Pierce Brosnan, he falls off a hot air balloon there and lands on the Millennium Domes. That came out around 2000, didn't it? And he also has that boat scene where I think that was on Trinity Buoy Wharf, where the boat leaps out of the water and it goes, skids across. It was somewhere around there anyway. These buildings here, not particularly nice to look at these days. But this is where they used to have the old Blackwall railway station, known as the fourpenny rope. It was tugged on a rope, and it cost fourpence. People would take the train to here and take the ferry from here to Gravesend, East End on Sea. It was a nice place for people to go for a little picnic, go for a little swim. But that only lasted from 1840 to 1926. And it's right next to, now this is, I don't know if this is the original location of this monument, but the Virginia Settlers Monument. Isn't that terrific? From near this spot, in December 19th, 1606, that's a good few years before the Mayflower set sail, sailed with 105 adventurers, the Susan Constant, the Godspeed, and the Discovery, landed at Cape Henry, Virginia, where these adventurers founded the first permanent English colony in America, under the leadership of intrepid Captain John Smith.
Well, you know who that is. That's Pocahontas. She's buried in Gravesend, isn't she? Pocahontas. Do you know who voiced John Smith in the Disney Pocahontas?
No.
Mel Gibson.
Was it?
Yeah.
United States flag. You've got the Union flag, and that, I believe, is the flag of Virginia. Yeah. So this plaque presumably was originally on Brunswick House, which formerly stood about 100 yards to the west. So 100 yards over that direction is where they set sail from, somewhere along there.
In 1607, we've sailed the open seas for glory, God.
Oh, it's just amazing to think. This was full of water before, and they had to fill it in. Imagine the amount of cement and brick or God knows what they had to do to build all these homes. Changed so much. Look look at this. So we're just next to East India Station. Now, this is part of the old dock wall. This went all the way around the dock. You can see it in that old picture that we were looking at. And it separated the export dock from the import dock. So I wonder if this actually is a remnant of the old import dock. And further over, if the wall continued all the way around, you can see a remnant of it on the other side there, where they've got the stick and snake badges on the side, which represent trade and medicine. It was on the entrance of the old pepper warehouses. Although I don't know if they're in their original position anymore, but it's such a mess now, all these like flyovers and everything. The Docklands Light Railway, and just beneath it you've got the old Victorian hydraulic pumping station with that tower. You know, it's an accumulator tower. You know, we saw this stuff before in the Isle of Dogs and Limehouse video. I guess the pressure would be used to operate cranes and, I don't know, dock doors and whatever. I think it stores wine these days, or it used to anyway. What a pity, Simon, look at that. I was planning on going for a drink in there.
You still can, it's open, surely.
The steamship pub.
Yeah.
I mean, it's strange it looks in that state because in the war, it was actually run by a couple of German people. And they got targeted. They were sort of looters and vandals used to come down here. But luckily, these brothers who ran it got tipped off by some locals. So they managed to hold off these nutters from vandalising their place. But it looks like it's been vandalised by people in modern times. Oh, well, we'll have to find another place. But we haven't finished the video yet. Incidentally, don't forget to check out my amazing book, Joolz Guide's Rather Splendid London Pub Walks. Speaking of pubs. So yes, this is the Blackwall Tunnel. This goes down there, all these cars and everything. And on the other side of the massive road there, where you've got those new buildings, if you actually look on Google Street View, you've still got the old building that used to be there. It's like Robin Hood Estate or Robin Hood Gardens. It was a really, I can see why they knocked it down. It was this ugly thing. They called it the Streets in the Sky or something. It just looked like a plain, big, concrete block of a wall. And the idea was it sheltered the people on the other side of it from the sounds from the motorway here. But my goodness, it looks it looks horrendous. I think this is an improvement, I'll be honest. You're probably wondering why I've stopped by this Texaco petrol station, but that's because that's the one in 28 Days Later where Cillian Murphy goes in there, they blow it up. You know, it blows up. Have you seen 28 Days Later? They live around here and they go in there to try and get provisions or something, and all the zombies come in, I think, if I remember correctly. Anyway, it was there. Anyway, I'm going to meet you over there by the house where they visit in 28 Days Later, in 2 Shakes of a Lamb's Tail. Look, this is Balfron Tower. Actually, there's 3 of these brutalist towers here. They probably look quite familiar because they're like the Trellick Tower that you've probably seen up near Portobello Road, designed by Erno Goldfinger in the 60s. You know, in 28 Days Later, where Cillian Murphy and the other protagonists, they have to climb over the shopping trolleys and they manage to get up there and meet someone who's managed to survive the zombies. I think it's in that one. Anyway, they're interesting to look at because they're all slightly different. So this has got the lifts, I think, on the left. And look, that looks like there's only every other floor, is it? You've got a little passageway going across, and then there's the other one there. Well, anyway, that's different yet again in a slightly different way. I can't see from here. But they are all slightly different. You've got the service tower, the lifts and stuff in the middle on that one. Maybe it encourages you to bump into your neighbours more.
Well, this is the thing, there's so much consideration about social spaces.
I think they're all right, actually. I used to hate this sort of thing.
I recall the TV series Tucker's Luck.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, his friend lived in the Trellick Tower.
Yeah?
So you get lots of good shots of how they looked back in the 1980s in that series.
Yeah, haven't changed it, but that makes a great photograph, doesn't it?
Yeah.
In fact, I think I'm going to have a photo done right here. Look at this. Behind me is Crisp Street Market. And believe it or not, that was the first purpose-built pedestrianised shopping area in the UK. Hard to believe, isn't it? It's actually from the 1950s. It was to showcase the post-war regeneration of Britain, you know. But built just after the war, 1951. That clock tower was designed by Frederick Gibbard. It became known as festival style for the Festival of Britain, which was taking place in 1951 as a kind of centenary of the Great Exhibition of 1851. It was actually intended as a kind of focal point for the Lansbury estate. Lansbury was named after George Lansbury, it's nearby. George Lansbury was a great politician, a socialist politician and sort of local hero in the area. I'll talk more about him later, but they're supposed to be one of the smallest museums in the world here, even smaller than the one for Michael Faraday earlier. They had the George Lansbury Micro Museum. It's supposed to be somewhere in the foot of this tower. It's inside there, celebrating the contribution that the Poplar and the East End and Sylvia Pankhurst made towards women's suffrage and women getting the vote. I think it's long gone now, that museum, unless I'm mistaken. In 1846, they passed the Baths and Washhouses Act to help people of the East End to stay clean. And, well, this is the public baths, but this one was rebuilt in the 1930s. As you can see, it's rather nice 30s style. And outside is another one of the great heroes of this area, Richard Green. He was a ship owner, shipbuilder. He had great concern for the welfare of ships' crews, and he would donate money to the Merchant Seamen's Orphans Asylum, the Dreadnought Seamen's Hospital, and the Poplar Hospital, and various charities for seamen and their families. Yeah, I don't always like vandalism, Simon, but if you look up here, can you see the dog? He's got an ear missing. So if this was my dog, he'd be called Vincent, after Vincent van Gogh. But the reason his ear's missing is because a boy climbed up here once. He got caught behind there, and when the fire brigade came, the fire and rescue came to get him out, they had to chop the ear off the poor doggy to get him out.
That's interesting, okay.
Look at him now.
They're going to put him back on there.
We're on East India Dock Road here, and this building here, look, this was built in the 1890s. The Missions to Seamen Institute. It's October 1893. Duke of York. I mean, later on, it got taken over by the gas company around the 1930s. And I believe these buildings here were provided for the workers of the gas company. So they lived in there. And what's interesting is if you look in that street, they've still got old gas lamps. You can get points for that. They're just around the corner in Malham Gardens. But getting tired. Let's go back this way. This is in memory of 18 children who were killed by a bomb. It's quite sad. There's a school over there. I think it's now the Mayflower Primary School. Anyway, it says here, dropped upon Upper North Street, the LCC school. And 18 children were killed, but this was in the First World War. A Zeppelin dropped the bomb and killed 18 kids. It says it was dropped from an aeroplane, German aeroplane, but I think they're referring to a Zeppelin. And people in the East End reported seeing these huge aeroplanes like silver dragonflies in the sky. That's a lovely street, Woodstock Terrace, we just came up. I mean, this area was heavily targeted in the war and the First World War. These Zeppelins would indiscriminately drop bombs around. So even though Call the Midwife is actually set in Poplar, I know it's quite kind of hard to find that many examples of the cobbled loveliness and charming streets that you see in that show. But I think that's one of them. This was the old municipal offices from about 1870. It's kind of like the town hall, I guess. These days it's the Lansbury, it says on the side there. Everything's named after this George Lansbury character. I'll come to him. And then next door to it, look, now that's an older building. That's the chaplain for the East India Company's almshouses. He was in there from around 1800 or so. So that's a lovely old building. Look at that. Now this fella who's dressed a bit like how I normally dress, See, this I've been going on about him, George Lansbury. So many things around here are named after George Lansbury. He was a local hero and campaigner for social justice. Now, back in 1911, he went to prison for supporting the suffragettes and encouraging them into taking militant action. And then in 1921, there was another incident where it was something called the Rates Rebellion. He went to prison and eventually became the leader of the Labour Party in the 1930s. In case you're wondering why everything is named after George Lansbury, and more importantly, the grandfather of Angela Lansbury, who is in Murder, She Wrote. It's his granddaughter. Right opposite, you've got the Will Crooks estate, which is named after another local political hero. See, look, Will Crooks. He was the mayor of Poplar, member of Parliament. He was a member of Parliament for Woolwich, actually. You know, he was fighting poverty, and he also got the Blackwall Tunnel opened, the Greenwich Foot Tunnel, the Woolwich Foot Tunnel. So he was a popular local politician known for campaigning against poverty and inequality. And he was such a hero that they've decided to imprison him behind these bars here. Although he's just been vandalised twice. How about that?
Oh dear.
And so he's now guarding all these baby buggies, it seems.
Incredible.
I've never seen that before. But the estate is named after him. Just around the corner, you see, this is on the edge of the estate here. You've got on Wade's Place. Hello. Thank you. Cheers. So we're just on Wade's Place here. And look, if you look through there, Wade's Place is the borough of Poplar. So somehow they've managed to retain this lovely old sign from the borough of Poplar from before 1965, when it then became amalgamated with some others, and it's now, look, the borough of Tower Hamlets. You see? It's just nice, you get points for spotting an old sign like that in the Joolz Guide Street Furniture Challenge. And just a little further along here, it's the old pub sign for the White Horse. It looks like sadly isolated and alone now. Just sitting there on the corner of Saltwell Street. There was a pub there from the 17th century, sometime in the 1600s, but long gone now. Look at it. Pity, really.
It's a pity, because I haven't seen any pubs around here whatsoever.
No, exactly. Speaking of pubs, we're going to have to walk a bit further. So, I believe there's one down here. Cheers, Simon. Cheers, everyone. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button if you like the videos. And if you want to know more about me, you can go over to my website where you can leave donations, you can buy t-shirts. And don't forget, above all, to buy my book and watch loads more of my videos. See you next time.